I have thoughts on this year's Hellfire Gala. Let's recap all of the major events. This is your spoiler warning and also a warning that I'm going to use swear words. What the fuck? The issue starts with a very pale Kamala Khan being resurrected on Krakoa and being informed that she is an inhuman and a mutant. The gala gets started, everybody's hype. Forge is going to share new gifts with the humans that solve housing shortages and food insecurity. Like, oh my god, mutants are so nice. And Scott, you are wearing that suit for 2 seconds before he's ripping that thing off to go respond to an alarm at the treehouse base in Central Park. Tells Jean, baby, you stay. Daddy's got it. All of a sudden, the Avengers have to respond to an emergency out in DC. They're out the door. Steve Rogers is somewhere with an activated distress beacon and he's unresponsive, so boom, Rogue goes to check that out. She's out the door. Jean gets the vote going and boom, we have our new X-Men team. And the representation is gorgeous. Look at all of this melanin. And what happens next is some of the grimiest shit I have ever seen. I'm just gonna keep my head in the way because it's so graphic. I'm not sure if I can actually show it. But you get the gist of what's happening behind me. Nimrod, a mutant hunting sentinel, has exploded through their whole boy band pose moment, and this is what we're left with: blood, carnage, screaming, Dazzler, everybody. Looked like Frenzy's skull was crushed. Prodigy was screaming while like the lower half of his skeleton was completely exposed. Fam, it's Cannonball was ripped in half. We learned that Orcus, an organization that hates mutants, planned and executed the attack on DC and the assassination attempt on Captain America, which pulled away the Avengers and Rogue from the gala. The goal here is to take out all of the Omega level mutants. Iceman melts. It's so graphic. It's so sad. Then Dr. Stasis comes in through a portal and he's all Charles. I don't know if that's how he talks, but that's how it is in my imagination. Charles, the medicine that you gave the humans, I drugged your drugs, baby. They all my hostages. I've been plotting on your ass since the last gala. Look at his face and his stupid helmet. Everybody's fighting because you know how the X-Men get down. And then Jean Grey, being that bitch, just tells everyone to stop. Peep the wings coming out of her back. Jean says, you raggedy bitches came to our house and chose violence. But if you let those thoughts go, you will still be breathing by morning. So I'ma put everybody down. And because I'm a kind person, I'ma tiptoe through the tulips of your brain and I'ma simply change your mind. Cool, we finna wrap this up, right? Damn, they was ready for Jean. They was ready for her. Right as Jean is telepathically calling Scott, telling him to come home, here comes Moira. Knife through the back of the throat. Poison knife. Jean's down. You couldn't step to Jean Grey like a real woman, Moira. Probably because you ain't one. You are literally a robot. Also, Scott is not on his way because the treehouse was a trap. Moira got the knife on Charles and she talking about tell your gang to chill right now or we start killing humans. Which, like, he folds. And Stasis is like, tell your raggedy mutants to leave this beautiful earth. First time I see a mutant come back to earth, I'm killing 1 human. The second time, I'm killing 10. The third, 100, baby, you dig? So Charles, being Charles, uses his power against his own people to telepathically force all mutants all over the world to walk through the nearest portal, which will take them off planet. Meanwhile, Jean is dying, but she's like, that's not gonna stop me from handling my shit. She wakes up Firestar and tells her, baby, you are the plant. Basically, she is using her power in her last moments to convince Stasis that Firestar was on Orcus's side the entire time. That way she can bring him down from the inside. The mutants are not gonna believe Firestar, but Jean's like, it's the way it is. I don't have time to contact anybody else. Once again, please peep the Phoenix silhouette behind Jean. Jean said that she didn't have time to contact anyone else, but like she was gonna talk to her husband. In her for real last moment, she goes to Scott, tells him, baby, I loved you. Telepathically goes to Wolverine. This is her for real last moment now. Baby, I loved you. Do me a favor before I go though. Kill every motherfucker you see. Which I think is super reasonable as a request. And he delivered. It wasn't even a thing. But notice up here, if you will, this red triangle of telepathic resistance. Because Charles did at least one thing right, and that was train his children to be able to resist telepathic coercion, even if it came from him. So Emma Frost, Kate Pryde, and the remaining mutants at the gala are able to use that red triangle method. They don't go through the portals, and they have a little trick up their sleeve, so they teleport to safety in New York. There are no more mutants on Krakoa at this point besides Charles. And Emma is like, cool, y'all are safe. I'ma go back and do what I do to go handle him, and then we can see what happens next. Except the portals are closed and she can't go back. Also, our girl Kamala is good, so no worries there. Back on Krakoa, the human ambassadors that are still at the party, they're like, man, I'm seeing reports of every human being murdered at the Hellfire Gala. What's this about? And Stasis is like, oh my God, our PR team released the press release early. This is so awkward. Them humans gone. And Charles has the nerve to be surprised. Like, oh my God, you said if I did what you said. Charles. And now look, Moira finna end him for real. Which at this point, But here comes Anna Marie. My girl Rogue turned Moira into spare parts, junk, scrap metal. She gets Charles out of there. She's flying across the Atlantic to get him to safety. And Charles is like, no, take me back, take me back. I can't feel any of the mutants. They were supposed to go through the gates to Araco, but I can't feel them. Fam. What Charles didn't know is that Orcus essentially poisoned the gates. And Charles, in an effort to spare humanity, telepathically forced every mutant through those gates. He says, I pushed them through a meat grinder. They're dead. All dead. And that was the 2023 Hellfire Gala. Also, now Kate Pride can go through the portals.